Are you a creative? You do know you were created. What are you creating? Welcome to PSA. My name is Felix if you're new around here. And if you're back, thank you for the continued support. I want you and everyone you know to know that everyone is welcomed here in our online community. These PSAs, public service announcements, these practical scripture applications are just that, a perspective that I've put into practice and found some value in it, so I share them with whoever would listen. And today that's you. What's that saying? Each one teach one. This week, I was catching up with one of my friends, a close friend who I lost for many, many years. He was a prominent designer and the influencer's influencer before that term was even coined. Aside from reminiscing on the folly days, is that a good term for the opposite of glory days? Anyway, at the height of his career, he decided to throw it all away to share the gospel, the scriptures, with anyone who would listen. Long story short, 25 years later, he still has never had another full-time job in the industry, and he has spent the majority of his time sharing God's beautiful wishes for humanity with thousands of people. And somehow, the Lord has always provided a way for him to continue to all over the world. So recently, he decided to take a risk in sharing some of his story with a mutual acquaintance for a potential interview. And I know this sounds normal for you and maybe for me as well, but my friend has never had social media, does not have a computer, and until recently didn't have a smartphone. So he WhatsApps me this doodle and some thoughts about this logo for the podcast, and I tweaked it a bit in Photoshop, and I sent it back to him, and then he said, "Ooh, it's good." It was like back in the day, but instead of us copying and pasting and cutting out pieces of paper and taping them and then Xerox machining them, my bad, I'm dating myself, copy machining them to scale and then taking the finished product and putting it on a t-shirt or something, we were working with modern technology. The methods had changed, but the mission remains. We took an idea and brought it to fruition, but the intention had changed this time in hopes that it would be honoring God. In the book of Genesis, there's a recap of God creating what we know as civilization. Now, I'm not going to get into the hermeneutics of the Bible or what in Genesis is actually descriptive and what is to be prescriptive, nor will I be getting into the timeline about how long one of God's days is, because honestly, my mother-in-law lives in South Africa, so she's kind of like in the future. And in the North Pole, it takes about 6 months to move from day to night. And honestly, some of my days with Lion just seem like an eternity. But I wanted to share this thought about creating. In Genesis 1:31, it says, "And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day." Each day in the book of Genesis can basically be its own message, but that feeling of it was good is what I want to expound on. We have the ability, unlike any creation, to envision something and bring it to life. Day after day, God would conceive something to fill the need that he saw, and he brought that something to fruition. Now, his ways are not our ways, so for us to fully understand the process would undermine the fact that he is other, he is God. So stop trying to understand it and explain it. In just an earlier verse 27, it says, "So God created man in his own image. In his own image, and he created him, male and female, he created them." For time's sake, I'm not going to go there in this video, but I want to go here. His greatest creation was man and female, and he said it was very good. You ever look at your parents or your kids and think, whoa, I'm just like them, or they're just like me? The scriptures say we're created in God's image, so if we're created in the likeness of the ultimate creator, how would we not create? But before he created, he had to choose to create. So choice is actually the most spiritual action we can take. What are we choosing to create? What results is it yielding? So aside from the specificity of being God's only creation that can bring ideation to reality, we have been given the gift of free will. What will that freedom of choice bring? You may think you're not very creative, but every choice we make creates a new eternity. Let that sit for a second. Like my friend Don, I became very disillusioned with the aggressiveness that it takes to constantly win culture over for some nonsensical reasons. Pride and finances, they brought me no peace, but purpose does. So with this graphic we created, intrinsically it made him say it was good, and it kind of reminded me of this scripture. It was not good because we were going to have people sleeping outside a shop for it. It was not because it was going to set some class apart from another class. It was because the cleverness and the creativity and the aesthetically pleasing choices that we had made would be used as a gateway of conversation to lead someone, hopefully, closer to considering who God is in their lives. Good choices create good feelings, and we have the power, a transcendent power, to create good, and it will leave your body and resonate with someone else. Now, I know we can't all be Elon Musk or paint like Jose Parla, but we can choose to create good. And the more good you do, the more you look like the image of your creator. You know, you're not alone if you think I'm crazy or this whole thing's crazy. That's why we have to just keep studying it and praying about it, meditating on it, because I'm actually always in awe while simultaneously a little in disbelief when someone says God spoke to me. Because unfortunately, I have never had that James Earl Jones voice of God experience that many people seem to have had. But God seems to speak to me in the details and the nuances of life. Anyone who's in the know knows that there was one number that was affiliated with my friend Don's brand. And after randomly getting into a deep conversation with him this weekend for the last 2 days about all things people and creativity and God, I looked up what number PSA I was recording, and it was number 69. The only number my friend used for his brand. I see what you did there, God. Until next week, let's love more, and I'll see you at the next PSA. Thank you guys for joining me for another week. Do not count yourself out. Go and create something. And check out some of these videos. Share them with the first person that comes to mind. You do not know what opportunity they could create for them. Take care.